Hi, I'm Alexandra Chen, but my mother-in-law insisted on calling me the help. For 2 years, I lived in the servants' quarters of the Morrison family mansion, while secretly being their landlord. But let me start from the beginning. I met William Morrison at a charity gala where I was volunteering as a server. He was the handsome heir to the Morrison fortune, known for their luxury hotel chain. I was actually there gathering information for my real estate investment firm, but he didn't need to know that. When he defended me from a rude guest who'd spilled wine on my uniform, I saw something genuine in his eyes. What William didn't know was that I was worth more than his entire family. By 30, I built Asia's largest luxury hotel acquisition firm, with properties worth over $3 billion. But I'd learned early that money changes how people treat you. So when William asked me out, thinking I was just a waitress with a kind heart, I decided to keep my success quiet. Our whirlwind romance was like a fairy tale until I met his mother, Victoria Morrison. The moment she learned her son was dating a server, her face contorted as if she tasted something bitter. A waitress? She'd sneered during our first meeting. Really, William, I thought we raised you better than this. What will people say? But William stood firm, and we got married in a simple ceremony that his family barely attended. That's when Victoria decided to teach me my place in the Morrison family. Since you're so experienced with serving, she announced at our wedding reception, you can stay in the servants' quarters. It'll be just like home for you. William protested weakly, but his mother held the purse strings. The Morrison fortune wasn't what it used to be. Their hotel chain was struggling, but they kept up appearances. Victoria made it clear. Either I stayed in the servants' wing, or she cut off William's inheritance. What nobody knew was that 6 months before meeting William, my company had secretly acquired the Morrison mansion through a complex series of shell corporations. The family had been quietly renting their own home without realizing it. Their hotel chain was in even worse shape than they knew, and I was positioning myself to acquire it. For 2 years, I lived the life of a servant in my own house. Victoria made me use the back entrance, eat in the kitchen, and help the actual household staff with chores. If you're going to live here, she'd say, you need to earn your keep. I watched as they hosted lavish parties with money they didn't have, bragging about their legacy while their empire crumbled. Victoria would parade William in front of eligible socialites, pointedly ignoring my presence as I served champagne in my own home. Then came last week. The bank called about their overdue mortgage payments that were actually due to my company. Victoria threw a fit in her private study, not knowing I could hear every word. We need more time, she shouted into the phone. Do you know who we are? The Morrisons have owned this house for generations. That's when I decided it was time for the real owner of the Morrison mansion to make herself known. Because tomorrow morning, Victoria had arranged a meeting with the bank manager to beg for an extension. She'd insisted I come along. Apparently, my lowly presence would emphasize their desperation. Little did she know, I'd already arranged my own surprise for the meeting. The next morning, Victoria swept into the bank in her Channel suit, practically dragging me along in my simple dress. Stand behind me and try to look pathetic, she hissed. Perhaps they'll take pity on us if they see we're charitable enough to keep you around. The bank manager's office was opulent with a view of the city skyline. Victoria had insisted we meet at this specific branch, the city's most prestigious, to maintain appearances. What she didn't know was that I owned this building too. Mr. Phillips will be with you shortly, the secretary announced. Phillips? Victoria frowned. We're supposed to be meeting with Mr. Henderson, the branch manager. There's been a change, I said quietly. Mr. Phillips is actually the CEO of Royal Crown Banking. Victoria's head snapped around. How would you know that? Before I could answer, the door opened. Thomas Phillips walked in, my longtime friend and business partner. He took one look at me standing meekly behind Victoria and had to suppress a smile. Mrs. Morrison, he began formally. I understand you're here about the mansion's mortgage. Yes. Victoria straightened her spine. There's clearly been a mistake. The Morrisons have owned that mansion for generations. These payment demands are ridiculous. Actually, Thomas said, opening a folder, the Morrison family hasn't owned that mansion for nearly 3 years. You've been renting it from Shield Properties. Victoria laughed dismissively. Impossible. We would never rent. We own that house. Your family sold it to avoid bankruptcy in 2021, Thomas continued. The paperwork is quite clear. You've been paying rent to Sheila Properties, albeit irregularly, ever since. The color drained from Victoria's face. No, there must be some mistake. William. Tell them. William, who had been silent until now, looked confused. Mother, what is he talking about? Perhaps, I said softly, stepping forward, I can clarify the situation. I reached into my simple handbag and pulled out my own folder. Shield Properties is a subsidiary of Chen International Holdings. Victoria's eyes narrowed. What would you know about it? Get back in your place. My place? I smiled, pulling out my company ID and placing it on the desk. You mean as CEO of Chen International Holdings? Or as the owner of this bank? Or perhaps you mean my place as the actual owner of the mansion you've been living in. The silence was deafening. William's coffee cup slipped from his hand, spilling across the imported carpet. This is a joke, Victoria stammered. You're a waitress, a nobody. Actually, Thomas interjected, Ms. Chen, Mrs. Morrison, is one of the largest real estate developers in Asia. Chen International Holdings owns properties worth over $3 billion, including the Morrison hotel chain's main properties. The hotel chain, William whispered. But that's our family business. Not exactly, I said gently. Your family has been secretly selling off pieces of it for years. My company now owns 60% of the Morrison hotels. We've just been allowing you to keep the name. Victoria swayed on her feet, grabbing the desk for support. But I wasn't finished yet, because I had one more revelation that would completely shatter Victoria's carefully maintained world. But here's what's really interesting. I continued, pulling out another document. Do you know why I was at that charity gala where I met William? I was evaluating the Morrison hotel chain for acquisition. But then I met your son, and I saw something different. Someone different from the rest of your family. Victoria had collapsed into a chair, her perfectly manicured hands trembling. All this time, in my own house. Your house. I raised an eyebrow. The house where you made me use the servants' entrance, where I had to eat in the kitchen, where you made me serve drinks at your parties. I think I'm going to be sick, she whispered. Mother, William finally spoke, his voice tight with anger. You made my wife, the owner of our house, sleep in the servants' quarters. I didn't know, she wailed. How was I supposed to know? Would it have mattered? I asked quietly. Should it have mattered? Would treating a servant with basic human dignity have been so difficult? Thomas cleared his throat. Mrs. Morrison, there's still the matter of the overdue payments. Yes, I nodded. You're 3 months behind on rent. According to the lease agreement, I can evict you immediately. Victoria's face went from pale to ashen. You wouldn't, where would we go? Actually, I have a proposal. I opened my laptop. Chen International is planning to convert the Morrison hotel chain into our new luxury brand. We need someone to manage our European properties. William leaned forward, interest sparking in his eyes. The position is in Paris, I continued. It would mean leaving the mansion, living more modestly at first, and actually working for a living. But it's a chance to earn back what your family lost. Through merit this time, not just name. I won't, Victoria declared. A Morrison, working as an employee? Never. Mother, William cut in sharply. You're not in a position to refuse. Not anymore. He turned to me, his eyes full of remorse. I'm so sorry, Alex. I knew Mother's treatment was wrong, but I was too weak to stop it. I'd understand if you want nothing to do with me anymore. I reached for his hand. Actually, the job offer was for you, not your mother. I married you because I saw your potential, William, not your family name. It's time you had the chance to prove that potential. 6 months later, the Morrison mansion was converted into a boutique hotel. Victoria moved in with her sister in Connecticut, her social standing in tatters. William and I moved to Paris, where he threw himself into learning the hotel business from the ground up. To everyone's surprise, especially his mother's, William excelled. Free from his family's expectations, he proved to have a natural talent for hospitality management. Within a year, our Paris properties revenue had doubled. As for me, I still volunteer at charity galas occasionally, just to remind myself that true character shows in how you treat people when you think they're nobody. Yesterday, we hosted a hotel management training seminar. I overheard William telling the new staff, remember, treat every guest and every employee like they own the place, because one day I learned that the servant I ignored was actually my boss. Victoria still sends the occasional email, always asking when we'll restore the family name. I keep her messages in a special folder labeled Lessons in Humility. The mansion's servant quarters, I converted them into a staff training center, where every new manager starts their journey learning to serve before they can lead. Because sometimes the best way to teach humility is to let people discover it themselves, even if it takes losing everything they thought made them important. After all, true class isn't about where you sleep. It's about how you treat others when you're awake.